Well, it is War Eagle Week here at WLTZ, and we are highlighting everything Auburn, including their football team. So with that being said, I am here with historian and curator of the College Football Hall of Fame, Mr. Kent Stevens. And Mr. Stevens, it is an honor to be with you, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
First off, can we talk about kind of what you do at the Hall of Fame on a regular basis and kind of how you got started?
Well, it started 30 years ago. I was a grad student at Ohio State in the sports management program, and they determined I was really more of a sports history nut than a sports management person. So that got me thinking about sports history. So I did an internship at the College Football Hall of Fame, which fortunately at that time was located 20 miles north of my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio, and Kings Mills, Ohio. And after a few years there, we closed that facility and we reopened in South Bend. And then we closed that facility at the end of 2012, and then I moved here to Atlanta, and we reopened it here about 6 years ago. And so altogether, I've been with the College Football Hall of Fame for about 30 years now.
That is amazing. It's a ton of history there as well as in the museum. But this week, especially, we are focused on Auburn, considering it's 45 minutes away from our location right now. And Auburn's had champions all throughout history, 2010, 93, 83, 1957, and 1913. From your expert perspective, where do you think the best Auburn talent was on the field?
Well, they really dominated. You mentioned 1957. They also were undefeated in 1958. So there was a streak there where they won, well over 20-some games in that period. So I would have to say that was really a high moment for Auburn. The 57 team in the entire season gave up 28 points. So college football was a bit different then in the one platoon era, but they were winning games 6-0, 7-0. They beat one of their rivals, Georgia, 6-0, where Georgia had the ball inside the Auburn 5-yard line, and Auburn made a goal line stand and took the ball over on downs, and then proceeded to fumble the ball back to Georgia. Georgia then had the ball again inside the 5, and they stopped them again, preserved the 6-0 victory. So that era of Auburn football, I think, has to be really highly up there in your rankings of great Auburn eras of football.
Well, let's talk about the ranking. For the past 10 years, the moment that I think sticks with most people, and including me, is the kick six in the 2013 Iron Bowl as their favorite moment for Auburn. What would be your favorite moment?
Well, I think that was that, and 2 weeks previously against Georgia where
yeah.
You had the tip pass and the Marshall to Lewis 73-yard touchdown play. I can remember sitting at home. And my wife really is not a college football fan at all, but we watched both of those games, and we're both jumping off the couch at that point. And a good friend of mine, his son is an Auburn grad, so I was getting War Eagle texts after both of those plays on those 2 weekends.
Right now, Auburn they just got out of a quarterback duel, and they selected Bo Nix. What do you see this year becoming for Auburn?
Well, I'm gonna default on that.
Okay.
My expertise is in what's happened, not as what is going to happen or what is happening. And being a historian, my perspective on things is much different from most people. The past, to me, is much more interesting than the present or even the future. So I won't comment on my prognostications on the 2019 Auburn Tigers.
Well, if history has told us anything can happen with Auburn, so it might be best that you don't. But tell me, why a college football fan should visit the Hall of Fame and what they'll find there and the enjoyment they'll get out of it?
Well, I mentioned my wife previously, who is not a college football fan. I took her here, and it took her 2.5 hours to go through the museum, and I felt like I was dragging her along to get her out, because this museum appeals to even the most moderate or football fan. Because it also, and not only if you're a history nut, you can spend days here looking at football videos of all the Hall of Famers and looking at the memorabilia. But if you're just a casual fan who's interested in fight songs and bands and cheerleaders and the social aspect of the game, there's a great deal of that type of activity here in the museum as well for even the casual fan.
Well, Mr. Stevens, I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate it. You giving something to War Eagle Week for us here at WLTZ, and it's been an honor talking to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate being on.